Let's create some interior elevations and place them on sheets with automation tools we've developed. For this room here, if I want to place elevations for every segment of the room, I can come to our tool, select the room. I'm going to uncheck this. We'll come back to that later. And if I click on OK, it's going to create elevations for every segment of the room. It detects where we need separate elevation markers to do that. It's going to place them all appropriately so that our west elevation is a couple feet east of the closest wall it needs to cover. And that applies to all of these elevations. The extents are set correctly. If we go to any of these views, the top is snapped to the ceiling and the bottom is tapped to the floor, which is something that Revit's built-in tool doesn't do particularly well. All of the views have appropriate naming applied to them, and the line weight of the crop region is set to a heavier line weight so that these look like proper interior elevations without any time-consuming filled regions. So that creates it for all segments, which is one option. Or we can create it only for the specific segments that we want elevated, based on criteria that we've specified. If I select all these rooms and have auto detect checked, click on OK, it's going to create elevations only for walls that have casework, specialty equipment, or finish walls. Now we're getting just the elevations that we need for each room, and they're also located correctly. In this room, there's two south walls that have casework on them, so the south elevation is placed a little bit north of the northmost wall so that these are both captured. This also handles rotation appropriately. If there's a wall at a different angle, it'll put that on a separate elevation marker, as well as rotated rooms. Now that we have all these nice elevations, we need to place them on sheets. So we're going to use our Setup Sheets tool, where you can select all or just some of the elevations in the project to place on sheets. We'll keep our starting sheet number as A701. And if we click on OK, it's going to ask us to specify the start and end corners of the placement area. That is the part of the sheet that we want views on. And if I do that, it's just going to populate the sheet with views based on our spacing rules, which we can modify as much as we want and reprocess. If we want to change our vertical spacing, which would be this tightest spacing here, to 1 inch instead and reprocess, we can do that. And if all of the views from the next room can't fit on this sheet, then it'll move that entire room to the next sheet. In our case, room 116 can fit on this sheet and room 117 can't, so the next sheet will start with room 117. And we can make manual adjustments to this too. If we don't like the way this is fitting, we can take those off manually and it will start those on the next sheet. Or we can continue to adjust our spacing till we're happy with it, want to leave spacing to ensure there's room for annotation, and then reprocess. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Then we could change this to 1.5 and maybe change vertical spacing also to 1.5. And it doesn't quite fit the next room, so we could try to squeeze this a little bit more, but we could also just leave it as is and process the next sheet. If we're happy with that, all we got to do is click on Process Next. It does one sheet at a time so that you can manually intervene if there's anything you don't like before doing the next one. But with just a few clicks, all of our views are getting placed on sheets and set up in a very organized fashion.